I do in London.
Oh, wow. I have a friend who lives in Castle upon Tyne. Do you know where that is?
I don't. I don't know really.
She's probably way far from London.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it's way out in the countryside.
So is your accent like London specific, or did you come from a different part of England?
From Surrey, which is just outside of West London. So yeah, I am pretty much London accent, but now I live like right near Central, so that's really lovely.
Oh, nice. And one thing I love about you is you have such a cool style, like how you dress.
Oh,
Yeah, you always have like the cool glasses or like some cool outfit on. So I just love that. I see it in like your pictures and your videos and stuff.
thank you. Love style. Yeah, it's all kind of yeah, it's kind of. You looked into the gene keys?
The what?
Gene keys. There's like similar to human design and my my purpose. My purpose. I think it is. It does say like that I'm kind of like I have I bring harmony to people and relationships and I do that through my style. It was so interesting to read because I was like, oh my god, that's me.
That's so cool. I've never heard of that, but that sounds really cool. And it's funny because it's something you wouldn't really think, right? Like you wouldn't really think that like your clothes matter for your purpose unless you're like a fashion designer or something.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I think we're all a bit like I don't know about you, but I've kind of fallen into that. Maybe it's a trap, but the well, my if I'm spiritual, am I allowed to really focus on like beauty and because there is an element. I think it's a thing, isn't it? There's like the polar opposites of like both sides. But yeah, I feel that it can be very fun. Like, we're here to enjoy ourselves, aren't we? And self-expression be, you know, we can amazingly through the way that we look and dress and do our hair and so yeah, I think as long as you're having fun, but I think it can go into that toxicity of how we, because I've also been in that type of mindset as well, where it's been like I won't find love unless I'm like really skinny and then starved myself. And do you know what I mean? So it's like there is. I think it's like everything, isn't it? There's always those polar opposites.
Yeah, like you don't want to like you want to express yourself and be creative and pretty, but you don't want to be maybe self obsessive or image obsessed or materialistic is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, how did you so you basically you work with couples or you work with people one on one for relationship resolution, right? Like kind of healing like conflicts in relationships?
Yeah, conflict resolution. Yeah, for couples. Yeah, I work more with one to ones, funnily enough, than I do. But I have worked with some couples, and got good results. But I actually prefer working one to one because if we work one to one, then we can really go into like the trauma aspect and really delve into that, and that's really my bag. So that's why I much prefer to work one to one. But if I do work with couples, then I'm offering, you would each come for that one to one, and then we do a session together. So we would explore what was actually going on at a much deeper level, and the untrue beliefs we carry about ourselves, and who our partner is reminding us of when we were, a child, and how we're projecting that onto them, and all of that jazz. So
I definitely want to get more into that, but first I wanted to ask you like how did you end up doing this line of work? Like what inspired you or what happened in your life that you were like this is what I want to do?
So I think life just like I feel like if life wants to take you on this road, then it just will. Like it's like you fall into these like dark spaces and these challenges, and it's like I think 10 years ago. Well, actually, I think I feel like for a lot of us, we get to that point where it's like, I need to do something about this situation drastically. Like, so, And I went through like this massive spiritual awakening 10 years ago as well. So really, really interesting. And I spoke to a medium the day after my friend had died, and he was like, and she told me the cause of death before the coroner's report had even been done. It was the day after, so none of that had been done. And she was like, "Yeah, this is how he died." But it was like such a I don't. Um, I want to say head fuck.
Yeah.
But
It's all right. It's all right.
hours, right? Anyway, so yeah, this is what happened for me. And so he had said in this reading, like, now is your time, now's your time to, like, kind of help people. So I was like, okay, so I just started meditating and stuff, and actually, funnily enough, in this meditation that I was just listening to, like, every night, she said to me, well, she didn't say to me, but she says in this like hypno like, it was the secret universal mind meditation, and she was saying if you listen to this for a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks, then your life is going to change profoundly. And so, oh my god, my life couldn't have changed more. It was so. I was like, oh my god, like everything just like blew. I was like, oh my gosh. And so yeah, from then onwards, I was like, right. So I've learned meditation. Then I just, it just so started to hear these adverts on the radio that were like, if you want to learn about counseling and stuff, then that we have these like chrysalis courses where you learn psychotherapy and hypnotherapy. I didn't know anything about hypnotherapy. I was like, oh, I'm not too sure about that. I think I want to do the other thing. They explained to me, I was like, oh wow, hypnosis sounds really cool. I did a year of it, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so in love with it. It's so amazing, and it was so similar to meditation, but it it's at a deeper level, and I learned it over a year, so it was like a real full on course. But yeah, and then I learned the emotional freedom technique. Then I learned metric experience imprinting, which is working with the inner child, and very much around the law and getting our needs met. And it's like I fell into all these things that just really aligned, and now I use these techniques constantly in my own life, and I give them to my clients, and they're so powerful. Problem is sometimes your clients, they're not using them all, like every time they feel uncomfortable. And the thing is you can't just use it every time you go to see your therapist stroke coach. Like you have to you have to regulate every time you get dysregulated. It's like we have to teach the nervous system that it's that you're safe, and that you're just in a story, and that you're fine. And it's that constant, you know the consistency of regulating your nervous system and telling yourself that you're safe, and looking from a holistic perspective at the stories, and sitting with those young stuff, and also like the attachment styles on recovering anxious avoidance. So both of those come up for me. So sitting with those parts, sitting with my feelings, all of it, it helps so much, because it just helps you to experience something different on the outside once you practices into place. But if you always go back into, this is why I love conflict resolution, because if you always go back into the same types of behaviors that we got brought up in our household, if it was dysfunctional, which is so easy to do, and we still do, we do the work, but it's like if you're just going to go straight back into those old behaviors, you're going to create the same reality over and over.
Yeah, I totally get that. Like, I think more people do need a daily practice or something that they do for themselves, whether it's a simple meditation or a more advanced technique. And I totally agree. Like, you see it a lot where for an example, let's say you got abused as a child and now you find yourself in a relationship as an adult where you're getting abused, and it's kind of like recognizing the patterns. And a lot of people get so comfortable in these patterns as well, and they feel safe in them even if they aren't safe, which is a big one. And what's funny is I feel bad. I didn't know that I actually was live. I thought we were I thought it was a private live, but I want to see what these people said. Do women ever think about whether they could take each other in a fight? Do women size each other up like that sometimes?
I
What'd
definitely
you say?
used to.
Oh, yeah?
I did, yeah. That's why I seriously needed to like sort my stuff out. At some point, I was like, I can't keep on with these like fits of rage and like, you know, feeling like people wanted one up on me. God, that was a thing that I really experienced like years ago, and I'd flip out at that, and yeah. So that's why again, regulating our nervous system is like teaching ourselves to be safe. And then it's like we can come from a completely different standpoint and hold ourselves in calm and have a conversation about stuff that needs to be addressed when the old way that Fiona would do things was like, right,
Yeah, yeah,
aggression. And the funny thing was I didn't actually ever really want to fight, but like I need to keep myself safe. So to keep myself safe, I'm gonna have to come across as the most aggressive person. And so yeah.
yeah, I get it. Like, I've always been an incredibly, like, laid back person. Like, I don't have problems with anyone. I've always just been chill. Like, everyone always asks me if I'm high, and I'm like, "No, I'm not high." Like, I'm just chill. But, with my partner going through cancer treatment, it was so hard to even just get an appointment. So I started getting really snappy and I started getting really angry with people because I felt like I needed to yell or else they wouldn't hear me, which sometimes helped, sometimes didn't. But yeah, I hate that. I hate like taking that on, and then being a caretaker and having to kind of be in charge of everything. I'm so in my masculine energy a lot of times. Um and I don't like how I act sometimes. 'Cause I'm like, everybody get in the car. We got to go right out. You know what I mean? It's like I become a drill sergeant. And so I'm trying to learn how to um, be calm. And even if I feel like I'm not being heard, that like yelling isn't going to really change anything. You know what I mean?
But we are humans and we do have those moments. I feel, like especially around your partner having cancer, like anyone, it's like that level of anxiety, isn't it? That it's like, but you're very self-aware, so which is the biggest part, isn't it, of helping ourselves, is like, okay, well, reflect on that. And, like you said, like, if there is a pattern that's not serving us, it's like, okay, like, how can I shift and change this? Or, so, we're all doing our best, aren't we?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we are all doing our best. I'm sure there isn't just one answer to this question, but what do you think are the most common conflicts that couples tend to have within their relationship?
um, so what I see is most of the time it's over and me and my husband do this as well. It's over household chores. Weirdly, it's like, like that. You we there's stuff that's going on at a deeper level, about the I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, or whatever it is. And there's digging down that we can do, and look for those underlying meanings, because generally we just snap at each other. And it's like, if we don't start to look at ourselves on a deeper level and start to express from those deeper levels, from that place afterwards, when we go into the repair, for a lot of us, I wasn't taught how to repair after um conflict. Everything was brushed under the carpet. So
I
nothing was.
hate that. That is my number one pet peeve is if I have a falling out with somebody and then they don't want to talk about it afterwards and act like nothing happened. I hate that.
Yeah, well, it's just not healthy, is it? Because then, your mind, you're feeding the monkey in your mind that's like, oh, because you don't get any answers, do you? There's no straight answers, and really, what I've learned over the past few years is everyone has like such an innocence about why they behave in certain ways, and I want people to express that innocence to me. I don't want to keep feeding this cycle that, like, you know whatever story it is that we tell ourselves about our partner or whoever else it is. It's like, let's talk to each other on a level, where we can speak to each other's hearts, and we can open up, and we can say about how we really felt, and like, without all the character attacks and the swearing and like, and then, like we say, pushing things onto the carpet. It's like those things are going to slowly erode the relationship as time goes, if not straight away, because it's our destructive parts that are coming out, isn't it? So,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, it's really, that's why I just love I love self-regulation, because it's like, you at some point you step out of that, you grow that bigger bandwidth of tolerance, and it's like, there might be a, but there's not the character attacks and the shaming, and it's
So
like,
just to make sure that I'm getting what you're saying. So you said the most common conflict is sometimes household chores. So and then there's the feelings underneath that they're actually mad about. So like for example, let's say I told my partner to take out the trash and then they don't. And it's like, you never listen to me. You don't care about me. You're lazy, jerk, whatever. And so you would teach somebody the underlying feeling of that and the language to use to communicate with their partner.
yeah, yeah. So it's really a case of, like, if it's something that keeps happening as well, it's like, okay, so let's, first of all, we sit with the feeling, and we start to trace that to a similar feeling we had when we were younger. And so, then it's like, okay, was there an event that you can remember, and so then we start to give resources to the person, like, so I want them to stay as safe as possible in their, re-traumatize them, because some of us have been through some crazy stuff. So, it's like, okay, so before we go into this memory, like, take whatever you want in with you to make your younger self feel safer, and also do whatever you like to anyone else who's there. Like, we can make them invisible. We can put them in cages, put them in, make them miniature, like, put them on pause, whatever it is, so that, they're kind of away from the scene, and we can just kind of be with that younger version,
Mhm.
and everything that they need. And then we talk about what was it that you needed in that moment that no one else was able to give you, and we start filling their own cup, and we speak about what was the untrue belief you gave to yourself in the time.
Yeah, and so just so like everyone, so you're talking about basically doing this inner child work through a meditation or a hypnosis and kind of having the visuals of a certain event, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's more, I use the emotional freedom technique to get there. So we tap straight um to the nervous system and the subconscious mind, like, quicker than we can do with hypnosis, actually. So, but yeah, it's in the quantum field. So, it's in our mind, and yeah, it gets really, really great results.
And how do we ensure that we don't repeat these patterns? Like I know that you're talking about kind of going back to the past, but what can we do? Like what if it's so deeply ingrained we're always repeating this maybe it's repeating cheating in relationships, repeating abuse in relationships. Like how do we move past that?
So, I, again, I feel that these types, even if we're just using them on ourselves, like, then we are building a stronger relationship with ourselves, which is like that's what absolutely matters. A lot of people tend to think, well, if my partner's not doing it and they're not showing up for me, then I'm going to go back into those old ways of behaving myself. And, we get dragged along kind of in their energy. But how can we hold boundaries with people if we're not saying that, I don't do that with you? It's like, so we have to keep filling our cup. We have that relationship we have to the self so that we're able to make decisions from the rational part of our brain and discernment rather than this chaos that we can feel if we keep getting dragged back into the same old tiresome realities. It's like we have to strengthen the relationship. To why we always hear it, and it probably gets on our nerves, to love someone else, we have to love ourselves first. And it's so true. And it's not about the bubble baths. They're wonderful. Yes, treat yourself to all of that. But it's really the deep work that we do within ourselves where we're like, where we start to have these, we know our limits because we're feeling into our feelings. We're starting to listen to our intuition. We start to listen to that voice and take action, but not from a place of dysregulation. Because if we take the action from dysregulation, you can bet your bottom dollar it's coming from fear, it's destruction. So we need to keep bringing ourselves back to this rational part of our brain and making decisions from there that are really going to serve us on a higher level.
Instead of reacting from emotions or habit. It sounds to me like codependency is a huge issue. Like if you're relying on this person to make you feel regulated or happy, and then if they're doing something you don't like, and then you kind of spiral. That's kind of what it sounds like.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I had a course actually. I'm gonna do it and make it live again. But yeah, it was on people pleasing, which is very much the codependent cycle where, like you say, you're dependent on how someone else views you. And you know and so being in that energy, it's so ungrounded. And that's why we have to work at grounding ourselves in the power of who we are and what we are, and embody, then coming from that stance, not the stance that's like, oh my God, like you feel this way, then I can't function. And it's like we need to, the relationship to ourself, the nervous system regulation, the self inquiry work, looking at the untrue beliefs that we carry and swapping them for empowering beliefs is really the gold to positive change.
Hmm.
And out of those real, um, you know, is dysfunctional the word that I'm looking for? There's dysfunctional cycles that we can find ourselves in, and believe me, I found myself in them because of my childhood over and over, and that's why I'm such an advocate for the work. 'Cause it's like you can completely shift and change into a completely different person. Work. And I honestly used to think to myself, I'd like to be like that, but I just have no idea how how that could even happen. And it's a slow and consistent journey.
I know. I think a lot of people get frightened or overwhelmed by, like, when we say the inner work, they're like, I don't know about that. And I also feel like so many people don't have the self-awareness to really see how they're part of that dysfunction though too. They might think, oh well, this person's doing it to me, but you are allowing it. Now, of course, I'm not placing judgment on anyone's situation. Like life is tough, but we all play a part. Like it takes two. And I wanted to know, so you do basically therapy like one-on-one with these people, and their relationships are highlighting things that they need to heal with themselves, but we also, I'm guessing, in a lot of these sessions you want to heal the couple though as well. But is there ever a point where it's like, okay, maybe there's no reconciliation here, maybe they're just not compatible?
I tend to leave that to the people who are coming to see me. I don't tend to make that decision for them. I know I've seen, how some therapists and coaches work, and they would, recommend that. But for me, I'm like, I think because I have this spiritual approach, I'm like, it's not for me to say, if someone else should be making those types of decisions. For me, I'm like, I honor the fact that, people have got to walk their own path. And sometimes for me, I'm like, oh, I'd really like to get this person to this place instead of that place. But I kind of have to look at myself and be like, "No, okay," because trying to push and force anyone, if you have worked with, you work with energy, right? It's like it
Mhm.
doesn't work. It doesn't. So it's
And
like,
my thing too is like I believe in karma and everything, and like you have to learn your lesson. So if they want to stay in this situation, they obviously haven't learned the lesson yet. So
hey, be playing around with that stuff because, even though I believe that we are all a fragment of the divine, like I still wouldn't say that I want to go in and play God. Do you know what I mean? And besides, like old me, when I was first learning like hypnotherapy, I was just like, well, I'll just leave. That was my answer to everything because I didn't realize that my own avoidance was running the show back then. And like luckily, my teachers were like, well, you can't just do that, Fiona. That's how we come to things in a therapeutic situation. Because yeah, that was always my answer. I was always just like run, run, run from every situation. So you know, yeah.
yeah, I know how you feel about that. Like I always did the same thing. I probably still do and don't realize in some areas probably. But I always thought that it was like taking the high road was walking away, which sometimes it can be, but it's like no. I should have stayed and fixed the situation instead of just being like, well, this is bad vibes. I'm going this direction.
I know it's so easy, isn't it, to fall into like that toxic positivity and like it's just like, and I feel like there's a, there seems to be a lot of it on the health and wellness scene where they're like, stay away from toxic people, and it's like, well, the first thing I think we need to do is look to see if we have, where we have our own toxic patterns because so many of us do, and it's okay. It's like, these things, they arise. We're on this human journey that is not, you don't just decide overnight, I'm going to start healing, and you go from like, this person that grew up in dysfunction to, oh, I'm this shiny, bright, perfect object in the world, and I only want that in my life. It's like, well, like you say, you have to make, that's why I said you have to make these decisions from like the rational part of your brain. You have to be discerning because you know not we're not perfect and other people aren't perfect. And I think when I actually came to that understanding that I wasn't perfect, I started to experience a real amazing shift in my relationships where it was like, right, come on, like we know we're gonna, like we mess up. Like, okay, but like how can we be a team together? How can we, come together and find a solution rather than this, I'm the one that's good and
Yeah.
not, that's really, like that could fall under an umbrella of like toxic abuse itself. So we have to be really careful that we don't become that person that we are projecting onto them. Like it's so easily done. It's like, wow, that's why we have to keep looking in at ourselves and being like, okay, how can I show up in the world as my most grounded version, as my best self? And, kind of coming from that space, even when we've had those moments where we're like, falling off the off the
Yeah.
wagon.
Well, I think that's why, like, self forgiveness can be really important too, because you can have all this resentment for your partner, your ex partner, but you also played a part, like I said before. So, self forgiveness, yes, I wasn't perfect. I did mess up, and maybe I hurt somebody, or, this person hurt me, and kind of learning how to forgive so that you can be free and kind of heal that relationship. Because I think when you hold on to like anger or regret, it doesn't serve anyone.
It really doesn't. It doesn't because it surfaces every time we go through something. It will come up like that energy that we're holding inside of ourselves, like really will. I mean, I difficult one with forgiveness because as we say, there's been some really really awful things that have been done to some people. I I think that everyone again is on their own journey and they get to decide. Um, for me, I experienced some heavy stuff in my childhood, and my the lady who woke me up spiritually, she was like, "Look, you have to forgive. You just have to. Like you've got." And so I really felt like I was kind of just forced in a way. So, not the best way to learn, but as time's gone on, I have, kind of learned more myself that if I keep hold of all this stuff, then I'm going to keep perpetuating the same cycles. It's like we have to at some point. Well, we don't have to, but we can you know, make that conscious choice to be like, okay, yeah, we're not saying that we hear it all the time. We're not saying that what they did was okay. It wasn't. But that it's just about freeing ourselves from that energy that will keep resurfacing if we don't let it go in whatever way, you know.
It's funny. I saw something recently because most people have significant issues with their parents, right? Trauma, a struggling relationship there. And I saw something that said, if you want to have an easier time dealing with your parents, don't expect them to change.
Mm,
They've been the same way since you were a child. Why are you going there today thinking that they're magically going to be so much nicer or more understanding? Like they are who they are. And I think that that's something too, like kind of just accepting, which is hard to do, takes a lot of time, but if you are able to just accept, like, okay, this person is the way that they are, I just need that strong boundary and that clear understanding, makes it a lot easier. Because I've had some issues with family members and I've gone years without speaking to them, and then I'm like, what, I can't really just cut this person off. Like, we're gonna have a relationship, there just needs to be boundaries, probably a time limit on how much time you spend with them, and then having a way to kind of process afterwards too, because dealing with somebody that you have issues with, it can definitely bring up a lot. Even if you are more of like a grounded person, it still can bring up a lot. You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah, absolutely. Well, they're like the primary caregivers, aren't they? They're like the primary attachment figures. So, the family are the strongest bonds. They've known us since we were, since we first came into the world. So, their opinions are the ones that matter the most because you're going to give it the most validation, aren't we? Like, someone says something like, and character attacks, whatever. And let's face it, before we had all this health and wellness and the self-regulation and whatever it is, like, I was brought up around like shaming and stuff because that was how they tried to gain control of these kids that were just like, you know, my parents had such, deep stuff themselves and it's generational, isn't it? So so for me and my brother, my sister's the oldest one, like she wasn't so caught up in all of this stuff, but my brother then a couple of years older than me, he was really violent. I used to get the brunt of his violence, and so then I was the one who turned to drugs at like 12 and was stealing and having sex and all these things. But it was like, okay, I don't know how to control her. So if I shame her into it. Like, it's not even a thought about thing, is it? It was just like, I don't know what to do with this. So, what do you do them disgusting things? Like, why are you? They just get so mad and and unfortunately not be able to look at themselves and say, how am I, playing into this cycle with my daughter? But like you say, like I kind of, yeah, I just realized that for my parents, sadly, I lost my mummy last year, but for my parents, I just thought they were just too past it to be, to for them to change. And I had a conversation with a loved one not long ago, and they were like, um, like this person, I'd like to have these conversations with this person. And I was like, but what is it that you want from it? Because, do you want them to turn around and say, like, I take full responsibility and accountability, and I'm so sorry I made you feel like that, because they've never experienced that in their life. So the only thing we can do is be that person in their life to show them you know, and I kind of decided with my dad, like, can I love him for being as crazy, messed up as he is? And I actually, like, since doing that, I actually realised that my relationship with my dad is a lot closer than with the others. I think because I kind of made that conscious choice, and my dad had never said "I love you" ever. And when I was away in Bali, he actually said it to me, and I phoned my friend, and I was like, "Oh my god, my dad just told me he loved me." He was like, "What? That just shows, doesn't it?" That because I would always say to him at the end of a call, even though he'd never say it back, I'd always say, "Love you, Dad." Because I'd always think, well, I can say it to you. You might not be able to say it to me because you've got like all of your stuff. I just think of it as like cloud cover. Like, like he is the sun, he is divine, he has got that light inside of him, but all of his conditioning has taken him away from his true self. So it's like, and I'm the one doing the work. So I'm like, I can tap into that sunshine inside myself and like and express that to him. Like,
Yeah. That's so beautifully said. I love how you said that he's the light, but there's cloud cover. Oh, that's just somebody put that on a t-shirt. That was so good. But yeah, like I mean, relationships are so complex, but I think, having that understanding, like what you were saying, like for instance, your dad never saying I love you, like maybe his family never said they loved him, So it, like you said, it just continues. And I think that some people they hear generational trauma, generational curse, like, oh yeah, whatever, like new age BS. But if you believe that you can inherit your hair color, you can inherit your positive traits, your talents, your skills, why can't you inherit the stress? Blockages, things like that. Like it just makes sense. I don't know why people feel that resistance towards acknowledging that.
Oh, I actually haven't. I feel like I haven't come across that. But that's really interesting. Yeah, because you know, I see it so clearly. Maybe that's why I see it myself so clearly. In let's say the codependent mum who gives everything to be that loving support to her child, and we can see that she did give everything, and she truly believed that she was being as loving as she could. But that now she's just created the same relationship, the same inner relationship to like her daughter and her children, you know, who haven't taken on board that. Oh, mum showed me my worth. Mum showed me like how amazing I am. It's like, no, mum gave and gave and gave till she depleted herself and made herself ill. And so that's how we express our love, and so that's how I have to express my love, because that's the truth of how we're a loving person. It's like, well, actually, no, that's not. That's codependency. That's like that is the really the fawn state, the survival state that is gonna deplete you and make you ill. So as much as they wanted it for us, that wasn't the message they gave us. That to me is like generational trauma. That's like, okay, now the kids have taken it on, and when they take it on, if they believe that's the truth and that is how you show love, then they're going to do that for their sons and daughters.
Yeah,
And
there's actually sorry to cut you off. There's two things I wanted to ask you. I didn't want to forget. So you mentioned earlier like when you were younger you had issues with like stealing and kind of like partying and stuff like that. How do you wish that like your mom or dad did respond? Like do you think there's something they could have done that would have helped you, or do you think it was just kind of like you were going to do what you were going to do? You know what like was there something that you wish they had done to help?
okay, so two things here. I feel that I've walked this path for a reason, like, and so I feel like everything has happened as it should do for my own evolutionary process. That I know that obviously not everyone holds that those types of understandings, but for me, I do. I believe that. So, because you can't change anything from the past, can we? So we can only change like the present and the future if we choose to. So, but if there was that, actually, I'll tell you how I can say this is I I love reparenting as a technique. So when I reparent those parts of myself, I become the parent that I always wanted, as it were. Not that I didn't want my parents, love them completely, but the way that I show up for me is in that grounded sense. Where it's like, okay, so I give my younger self time and space and energy to process and listen to her and give to her, that it's okay to feel how you feel, because so many of us were taught like your emotions aren't all right because they were dysregulated. So, so if we got dysregulated, it was like they didn't know how to show us how to process the rest stuff. So for them, it was like I just have to close them down as quickly as possible so that I can, get back to some form of regulation. So yeah, so I mean, my parents, they had been perfect, would have been, just regulating themselves and to show up and just be like, okay, like where can I take my part? Like, how can we both together, find these solutions? Like even taking someone's hand and and giving them that human touch and like, like let's work through this together, you know, rather than the chaos that came before. It's just like
Yeah, no, I get that. Because there's a child in my life that has had some pretty bad behavior, like some stealing and stuff, and I think that I'm not sure how to help them because for me as a kid, I would have just got beat. You know what I mean? I would have just been getting punished severely, very physically, probably grounded on top of that. And I obviously don't want to do that. I know it doesn't help. It's not going to prevent it. It'll just make it worse, probably. But then I think I also sometimes approach it too much like a therapist. And I'm kind of more like, how do you feel when you're stealing? Like, why do you do it? And I feel like children don't really have that language. They don't really know. So I guess I like what you said about just having that physical touch of like, we'll get through this, like we'll figure it out. Because especially for me, like growing up, and this is something I didn't realize till recently, I never really cuddled with my parents. Like there wasn't really ever that like, oh, love you, like cuddle and watch a movie. And my boyfriend has two kids. They love to cuddle with me, and I get so uncomfortable. And it's not because I don't like them. Like I love them to death, but I've only cuddled romantic partners. So I'm just kind of like I don't know where to put my hands. Like this is so awkward to me, and I have no idea how to get over that, to be honest with you.
yeah, well, you know, I do, I absolutely hear you, and I feel like it's so sad that in this day and age we do tend to feel like that, don't we? Where we're like, oh, I better not look at that child for too long in case their parents think I'm strange, or do you know what I mean? instead of just being able to say hi, like I think it's a real shame. But I mean, personally, like we could. This is. Do you want me to share like kind of suggestion or
Sure, sure.
just feeling those feelings, and also like also we kind of tend to say to children as well, and I don't work with children. I work with children, but I have clients who have children, so and I work with my inner child. So something that we could do, and something I know about children from just learning what I've learned is asking them how they feel can sometimes be a bit like, I don't know, because they haven't been shown about their emotional world and how to process through and how to. So what we could do is to hold that space with them and be like, well, tell me about, are you feeling any feelings in your body, and get them to tell you where they're feeling a feeling in their body, and then say, has it got a shape, color, texture, and get them to kind of tell you where the sensations are, and like kind of just sit with them and hold that with them, and the energy actually a lot of the time shifts and changes
Mhm.
kind of the more we talk, and we can just kind of see that it's just energy that's moving around the body, and like so it's kind of like bringing their awareness to the feelings, rather than because you might be trying to jump a step too far ahead and they might get a bit like overwhelmed, like I don't know, I've got no idea, like,
Mhm.
but you feel that way as well, then maybe you could sit with those feelings as well, like of the, "Oh, I don't know where to put my hands," and, like, it feels uncomfortable. It's like, it will sit with the discomfort, and give it some space, like, and feel into that as well, and also like the colour, the texture, and, I love to speak to it, and I know that you've been or you are medium, so, it's speaking to those parts of ourself that we tend to just acknowledge, and you can say that if you've got a message for me and see what comes to mind.
See, I think I really needed to hear, because it's so funny. It's easy for me to help other people, right? But sometimes for myself, I'm like, oh, I don't know where to start. But I like that you said like allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable, because I think I'm realizing now that I don't. I usually feel like, oh, I wish I didn't feel uncomfortable. Kind of more like shame, or like, why do I feel like this? Like I'm just giving them a hug, like it's not a big deal. And then I remember like, oh, well, I never really cuddled, so I think that, yeah, if I just allow myself to feel uncomfortable, and I guess maybe just kind of get used to it, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was very weird to like kind of realize that. And the other thing too, so you were talking about codependency, and that's kind of something I talk about a lot with a lot of the women that I work with or that I have on the show. Is a lot of us do feel like we have to give ourselves to everyone, or even if we don't feel like we have to, we just tend to kind of naturally do it, whether we want to. I don't know if it's people pleasing, probably sometimes, or it's just finding purpose in helping other people. What would you recommend for somebody who is trying to break that habit of giving and giving and giving?
I would to- totally come back to yourself, your feeling world, and start to home in on those feelings, like I just said in the last segment. So just really getting to know our bodies and how we feel, so that we can start to honor that. So we can start to voice when something maybe not feeling so good. Now, if we are really stuck in like that tendency, then that is going to probably bring up a lot for us, a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. They're the big, heavy emotions that we really need to sit with, and be with and hold, because we need to know our limits, and we need to, if we want to be empowered, we want to come from that empowered stance, then we really have to honor ourselves, and we have to say, this is as far as I can go. Setting healthy boundaries, and yeah, and also meeting our own needs. meeting, you know,
Mm.
what is it we need? You know, like, am I able to voice that to other people, or am I constantly in this give, give, give mentality and not able to receive? Like, oh yeah, the one more thing that I wanted to say, and this is the most challenging I feel, is to get really honest with ourselves and honest with other people. And what I feel that we tend to do if we're in that energy of codependency, because we weren't taught how to regulate and our caregivers projected all the information onto us, then what we tend to do is be in these opposite energies, and we can pendulum swing from both. So it's either really nice or, oh, you're going to get the wrath of me now. And so it's really about finding like the middle, the finding the balance so that we can find that regulation and speak from that regulated space. Because otherwise, when we come from this space that's like aggression, like, oh, like I just want to tell everyone to F off now because I've been doing so much for, or I feel resentment. When we come from that energy, we like attracts like energy. So other people are going to come back in an aggressive energy. And then we're like, well, I can't even speak my truth. I can't even be authentic. But it's like, well, you can, but there's just a different way to do it, which actually isn't people pleasing. It's actually coming from an empowered stance. It's actually tapping into, a bigger part of ourselves, knowing who we are, knowing what we're worthy of through the work, and then expressing from that stance. And with the work, you will start to get um, more okay with the fact that some people won't want the new version of you.
Yeah,
It's
they
just
won't like you anymore now that they can't walk all over you.
something that and that's what stops people from doing this really valuable work, is because it's so uncomfortable. It really is one of the most uncomfortable paths you'll ever walk. But if you want to get to that other side, to heal, you have to feel, you have to go through to get to the other side. And to go through, you have to work on that relationship to self, which is really feeling and honoring.
Yeah, no, that was beautiful. Thank you. And what's funny is I've always been like pretty like self-aware, always like into spirituality, of course. Like I've always been kind of weird like that. And I started doing this work very young. I started doing it at 18. Now I'm almost 26. So it's been like pretty much my whole like adult life. And what's so crazy is I feel like for so long I was like, I know everything. I'm fully healed. Everything is great. You know what I mean? Like I was so on my high horse. And then being in this relationship that I'm in, him having kids has really shown me how much I have not healed because I've had issues with my parents growing up and I'm noticing that I act exactly like my mom. Like I'm not, as like rough, I'll say, as she was, but certain things like she has like OCD, like she cleans like crazy. If there's a tiny little piece of dirt, she like picks it up with her hand and like throws away. Like she's really anal. And I noticed that when we have the kids, I'm constantly cleaning and to the point where they're like, "Don't you want to hang out with us or do you want to clean?" And I'm like, "Oh my god." Like kids will tell you, like and really hold a mirror to you. And I was like, oh my God, I am being a total freak. Like I'm cleaning this house day and night for no reason, and it's so funny to see things mirrored to you. Or like even sometimes I think maybe I'm too nice or I spoil them too much because I might not have gotten spoiled that much. You know what I mean? So it's just really funny how your relationships, even though I'm talking about like kid and parent, it's the same with, partner and two partners. They will really show you yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think sometimes couples might fight just because one partner points something out in you that maybe you didn't want to see or you didn't realize. Do you know what I mean? Like they could show you that ugly parts of yourself. They're like, no, I'm perfect. That's not. I don't do that. But then they point the mirror, and you're like, oh, I hate you. You're a jerk. But you know that they were right.
Absolutely. And like listening I totally agree with that because that was totally totally me. But yeah, it's uncomfortable to hear people talking about ourselves and
Yeah.
you know onto. Um, but it is also, I feel like it's a necessary part of its resolution to actually hold that space for other people and to hear and to and like like, it happens to me when my husband says stuff to me and I'm like, oh, I can really feel these feelings in my body, but it's like it's okay, like I'm having these feelings in my body that feel uncomfortable, but I know that I want to show up in a completely different way to all the other relationships that were so like, okay, so I'm gonna feel these feelings. They're there and they're uncomfortable, but okay, tell me. I'm gonna listen and I'm gonna and you know what? He mirrors that back to me. You know, most of the time, not all the time, because like you say, we get swept up in our humanness and you know, path of but I don't think it's not just going back to something that you said I feel like I felt like I was so healed and then all of a sudden I realized that I'm not healed, but I think it's just the process is never ending, like like we're always evolving, aren't we? So it's like, oh, here's something new to look at, and sometimes that's something that we feel that we've kind of covered and it's like, but I already already did
Yeah.
that bit.
But it's like round 2. I also think the older that you get though, you understand different layers of the trauma that you didn't originally, you know what I mean? Like you start to see like, wow, I'm older, I would never have done that. Or now I understand the full gravity of what had happened. And I think that that's what I'm going through, just like maturing and like my brain is now fully developed. And I'm like, holy crap, I never realized that that was actually really horrible. So I think that's another part of it too, is it is ongoing, ongoing, ongoing. And I think that, as we should strive for perfection, but understand we probably won't get there, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's okay to be good enough, like because perfection, yeah, if you have that, I know I can have the perfectionism thing going on inside me, but that can be like the codependency. Like, so it's like just knowing that that is a bar set too high. It's like, you said about the self-forgiveness, like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go easy on myself. Like if we do mess up, own that stuff, like because that is a level of maturity that a lot of people are kind of just even not learning, or they're just kind of going into that. It's like I feel like as a collective we're starting to go into this emotional, and it's like the maturing of, because so many people are learning about them and how to communicate from different spaces within, rather than going back into all of that. But if we do go in back into all of that, owning it, yeah, I'm sorry I did that. I totally see where I went back into my stuff, and I'm sorry and I love you. Do you know what I mean? Or
The apologizing is everything. If you cannot apologize or the person you're with cannot apologize, start there because that itself is a major trauma or issue because, when I was a lot younger, I had a hard time saying sorry. Now I'm way over that, but it's just if you literally feel uncomfortable saying I'm sorry, that's a deep issue.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's kind of like it's the shame that comes up with that, isn't it? Like the, oh my god, but if I admit that I was in the wrong, then I might get ostracized or abandoned, like so. But again, sitting with those big feelings, because if you do want to experience a loving partnership, then that is like the key element that we all have to learn how to. Sometimes Stu will apologize for his side of things, and I'm like, well, somehow we co-created this, so I'm sorry too for for whatever part it was. I really
For the
can't.
tiny little part that I played, I apologize.
But it's also good to, it's really good to laugh as well, isn't it? Like, don't take yourself too seriously, and have a laugh, and you know we're very lucky that we have that. We have like a very, both of us have very way out there sense of humours. So, you know, but yeah, that's why I love the conflict resolution, because that's what I realized was the whole key to if we want to experience love in partnership, then we really have to get that bit right, and if we right, then we need to get it right through the repair.
So we talked a lot about, issues. So I want to talk about what are some healthy habits of a healthy couple?
Uh, so yeah, I mean, just keeping things on a, like, so looking at our sexual attraction to them, like, um, also, are we looking after ourselves as well? In a healthy way, not in the unhealthy way that we talked about at the beginning. Like, the human touch, or able to touch and, you know, to hold each other, hug each other, to hold hands, to tell each other that we love each other, to give each other that, like, just those loving affirmations, just and that they're amazing, and all of those things when we feel it, just also, when we're filling our cup, yeah, it's so beautiful that for them as well, because life just takes over, doesn't it? We get so away and everyday stuff. Yeah, I mean, personally, we're really good like that. We always give each other those that loving validation. But yeah, really, it is really about this. How am I expressing myself, to my partner, like they're not doing as well as I want them to. That sounds well controlling, doesn't it? As it, when they're not, can't, they're not behaving in ways uncomfortable, whatever, then like I started to come from a place of like I statement, which is really powerful, like talking about my feelings, like rather than the counter attack of, and as we keep saying, I don't always get it right. Sometimes I blurt it out,
Yeah,
but
so kind of saying like, yeah, so saying like I feel like you're not listening to me instead of you're not listening, get something out of your ears, right? Like just being kind of like I feel like you don't hear me or whatever it is.
less threatening, isn't it? Then I feel like you're not listening. Like it's like um and actually speaking on our feelings, which a lot of us don't. Like the English language is really confusing. I love this book that I read called Nonviolent Communication because it was like, yeah, read it. It's
Yeah,
amazing,
I'm writing
actually.
it down.
So, and so sorry, I've lost my train of thought. So saying about how we feel, what we tend to do is we say, "I feel like you're not doing blah blah blah," and it's like that actually isn't feeling. That actually isn't expressing how we feel. That's expressing uh like a counter attack. Do you know what I mean? We're so used to it, aren't we? Like, so it's like, okay, but let's actually talk about our feeling. What are we actually feeling? And I say to my clients as well, and they go on tangents. And I say, "How are you feeling?" When I'm all this story. And so it's like, okay, so just bring yourself back to your body. Let's feel like, okay, so give the shape, the color, the texture, and like, um what emotion are you feeling right now? Like, what is that in your body? What is the energy? And it's like, okay, well, I feel um feel upset at the moment. One that's really powerful. I think that a lot of us overlook is feeling scared. A lot of us feel scared in our relationship, don't we? Especially if you have an avoidant part of yourself that likes to tend to run away from situations. It's like, oh, this thing is happening, and I'm going back into like that old mindset where there's that part of me that it's like, oh, F it, I'll just be. It's much easier. Just sharing from not from her and from the emotion, but from the I have a part of myself that feels like she's scared and she wants to run away. So it's less threatening to them. It's not like not gonna all of a sudden open up their attachment with them, go into their own chaos. It's like, I have this part of me, she's feeling like that, but I'm not gonna do it. Not
Yeah.
gonna act sharing, how I feel and what I'm experiencing, and see, you know, if we can even ask them, like, do you experience that yourself? Because we all, actually, all of us humans, we all have every different personality type side of ourselves. So,
Mhm.
it's any a secure person with a secure attachment will still have moments of avoid anxious. It's just it's not. I think it's much less acted upon, um, if it's acted on at all. I don't think it is actually acted on. It's just we get those thoughts and those feelings.
Yeah, I've noticed that well, communication in any relationship is so important, honest communication, but also how that communication is being received, because at least in my past, I can speak for me. I've been in relationships where I would honestly communicate something, like let's say something very uncomfortable, right? And then if I met with judgment, I'm never opening up to that person again. And then it could create blocks in the next relationship of, oh, if I'm honest about this thing in my life or how I'm feeling, it'll be met with judgment. So that's one thing I really like about my relationship that I think is really healthy is I can say something really uncomfortable but honest about how I'm feeling or something I've been through. And instead of being met with judgment, it's met with, oh, okay, like that's good to know, or, kind of a more valid response than just, oh my God, like get over it, or somehow using judgment or some type of attack.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love to. I love. Have you ever heard of Byron Katie?
Who?
Hey, I would absolutely recommend to check her out as well. She has on her website. She has this a free PD work. It's self-inquiry work, so it's looking at those untrue beliefs that we carry about ourselves. But she also has this work called Judge Your Neighbour, and it's when we go into those times of judgment, we can swap. Um, we can swap. So she's very clever the way that she does it, but she gets you to put the shoes on of the person that you're judging. Um, and she's like, "Can you just swap, like, so let's say for example, Naima was being a bitch, right? So instead, like, she's like very gently, okay, so she questions it, like, okay, so is that true that she was being, is that like 100% true? That, oh no, sorry, that she is a bitch. Like, and so there's this, like, usually there's a bit of a chink in that. Oh well, no, she's not always a bitch. That's not like the whole of her. Do you know what I mean? She just was in that moment. And then it's like, how does that make you feel when you believe that why does that make you feel really uncomfortable? And how do you treat her? How do you treat yourself? And then, who would you be, like, if that exists? Like, I love the Ho'oponopono, where everyone's just here to, like, play a role in our own evolution. Like, it's so powerful. And so, it kind of really takes us back to that understanding. But then she gets you to say, okay, like, do you think that you could take anywhere, and just do this very gently? Like, do you try on the shoes of, um, I was being a bit, and just can you see that? You don't, just play with it. Like, like, a lot of the time it's like, oh, okay, maybe I was doing so mind blowing, because it's like our reality, like, reflects us so, like, instantaneously, like it can do. And so, yeah, I love to play around with that. Personally, when I first started doing it, I used to go into a bit of self blame, because I used to be like, oh my god, it's all my fault, like, and I'm just such a terrible person. But it's just like working with the, just sitting with it again, sitting with the heavy feelings. Um, but um, but yeah, if someone does go into the judgment, I first think to myself, where can I find that in myself?
Yeah.
Also, like, how can I convey that to them so that it's like coming from a place of regulation, and just saying, did you realize that, when I shared something with you, and when I did it, like, you did this stuff, and, I really felt judged about so it's just coming from that place of, you know, again, not kind of judging back. We tend to do that, go into
That's
that
true. Yeah.
because we are so powerful. We are the creators. We are like co-creating, and so it's just really like, oh my god, taking us back to the state of like source, like divine divinity. It's like, oh my god, that is amazing.
Um, so I wanted to make sure, was her name Byron Katie?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Byron Katie. So Byon sounds like a guy's name. I have no idea why her name is Byron Katie, but yeah, it's Byron Katie,
Yeah.
and her stuff on YouTube. Loads of really amazing videos where she's kind of demonstrating doing the work.
Mhm.
You
And I
know,
like that you said, like, everyone in your life is part of your evolution, and that is so true. And for me personally, I mean, my beliefs have a lot of layers. I could go into a lot of things, but ultimately, I believe that we all, we kind of choose our life, right? I do believe in reincarnation. I think we choose. I don't think we choose every single little detail. We do have free will. We do make choices here, but I think that we choose basically who is going to be around us for the most part. And so I think that even somebody who is your arch nemesis, right? I love that word, arch nemesis. And they're just your hater. They're like always on you, but they're also put there maybe to make you stronger, or they're put there to like teach you something, whether that's to teach you patience or to just motivate you to work harder. So, like, when you can take a step back after feeling your feelings about this person, you can kind of see, like, okay, I see the bigger picture here. Like, they probably are here to make me strong or whatever it is. And then people are like, oh, well, that doesn't excuse bad behavior. And that's true, right? Like, nobody should be nasty. But I think it's better to see things as a lesson than just some bullshit happening.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, I feel that it's not. It does get a bit tricky, doesn't it? With the okay, this person is presenting with this type of behaviour, and do I just let it go, or do I, But what I found is when I start tapping into that energy, like, well, I am divine. And, that's really when we start to see those like shifts in our reality. And it's like, okay, so we can start to play around with that. Like life can be a bit of a playground, can't it? So it's like, okay, let me just see. But also I feel that we need to have those honest conversations. We need to open up about, our experience and what we experienced with them, and and have all that, but, again, just from a regulated space rather than, you know, um, attacking and
Mhm. And I feel bad because I don't remember, but did I teach you Reiki?
No, you didn't actually. We did have a conversation about Reiki though, didn't we?
I think
Yeah.
we did something together, and I feel bad I can't remember what exactly it was, but I was trying to remember because I feel like uh, a lot of people don't really put it together, but even just as a Reiki master, it's very similar to therapy. It's very similar to, hypnosis and things like that. And it's even funny how you're saying, like, ask them how they feel in their body and kind of like what it looks like or what it feels like, the texture and everything. And that's like the exact same thing, pretty much, as with somebody coming who wants to receive Reiki. Is they might feel like they have a blockage here, or something's happening in the body. And so I just think it's really funny. And I've been studying a lot of different things, even hypnotherapy, and what I've seen is people want to instantly go towards talk therapy or medication, which I think, I mean, personally, I think talk therapy is a better option than medication. But it's interesting how those things are so wildly accepted. And then if somebody brings up Reiki or eating right, exercising, sleeping more, they're like, nah, give me the medication, And it's so sad to me because so many people could be living such a great life if they were just more open to different ways of healing and then just, having a pill or whatever it is. And I'm not judging anyone. I understand people are going to do what they're going to do, but like I just feel like if these pills worked, people wouldn't be depressed anymore. Like it wouldn't be such a widespread thing. And I think that there's just so many negative side effects of those medications too, that it's just I wish people were more open to trying things like hypnotherapy or Reiki, or even the simple things, eating better, sleeping better, if versus just let me take this magic pill that's going to fix me.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that some of us that have chosen this path of self introspection that will walk the path, and I feel like it's very powerful and it will end up shifting, so much with the world. But yeah, who knows again, like what someone else's path is, I do agree in the whole. I mean, I used to be a recreational drug addict, so I relied on you know coke and pills and stuff for you know for that. I didn't really know it. I thought it was just part of my lifestyle, and but on self introspection, when you look back, it's like, yeah, oh my god, I was definitely from parts of myself and I just wanted to have a good time all the time. So
Yeah.
when it comes to like pills and stuff, I'm like, look, there are other ways. There really is other ways to deal with stuff. But I do also know, like do you know Gabrielle Bernstein? Her name is. She's quite big on the spiritual scene. She speaks about when she postnatal depression, and she says if she hadn't have taken these tablets, then she doubts that she would be here now. And she's like, so I'm such an advocate for like I say, we don't know people's paths and stuff, but generally, I think if you can do it, like if we can do it without it, like then there is that there I believe there is an option for a
Yeah.
lot of people to do it without, and that is really where we're going to evolve, we're going to learn, we're going to grow, we're going to become much better versions of ourselves, we're going to help to create loving partnerships, we can thrive, and so that's what we want, isn't it? Like, like if we put a band-aid over it, then we're never really getting anywhere. We're just coping. We're literally just coping. So, the work is uncomfortable. It is work,
Yeah.
and what steers a lot of people away from it 'cause it's like, oh, I've got enough to do with earning a living. So, but I just you can't beat it. You can't beat where it's going to take you if you commit yourself to it and you you let yourself have this slow and consistent time with yourself and you just build and build and build on your sense of self and let that shine.
Exactly. And, I appreciate you so much for being so candid and honest with us and just telling us all this amazing, beautiful information. I'm so grateful that we're able to do this today. And you guys, I'm going to put all her information in the description box below too, if you like to work with her. Do you do like long distance, like on Skype or something?
Yeah, on Google Meet.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So I'll be sure to put your information below for everyone to check out. But thank you so, so much for being on the show today.
Honestly, I saw your show ages ago and I was like, oh, I'd love to go on there. So beautiful.
Great. I love it. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later.
See you soon. Take care, darling.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.